Welcome in to the First Seed Fantasy Podcast. We are First Seed Sports coming at you with some Week 5 insights. Fellas, how are you guys this week?
Can't
Doing good.
complain. Can't complain.
Doing good.
Love to hear it. So today we've got on our docket Boom Bus, our variation of Start Sit, just because some of our bus you can't sit, but just kind of expect a week from them. And then our booms are just guys that we are really expecting some big and very solid weeks from. So, Mike, why don't you kick us off with your picks?
Yeah, so my boom play for week 5 is actually going to be Robert Woods. Kind of underwhelming from start of the year. That Titans team, obviously Tannehill is just struggling over there. He doesn't really produce much. He did 2 years ago when he first came over with Vrabel, and they made it work, and they were phenomenal, one of the best offenses in the league, and they kind of just faded from there. Last year was miserable, and this year it's kind of a little bit of the same. If Derrick Henry ain't doing his thing, the team looks bad, and in return, when you force Tannehill to throw, great things happen for the defense. But yeah, other than that, I love Robert Woods in his position this week. Treylon Burks is currently dealing with turf toe, so that should open the door a little bit more for Robert Woods in this next week against Washington, which has been very, very fairly kind to fantasy receivers so far this year. So I'm on board with Robert Woods. He's seeing a lot of good quality targets. And what I mean by that is designed plays where they're specifically making him the first read on some plays. So I'm excited for him. I think it's going to be one of his best weeks of the season, if not the best. I do expect him to get close to around 20 points this week without some red zone action. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Robert Woods, I got him as my boom this week. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No. I didn't know you were doing both. Go ahead. My fault.
Yeah, okay. I'll go quick on this one. So my bust this week for week 5 that I don't think is going to hit his projections is going to be Amari Cooper. I think he has a pretty rough matchup this week. I think this might be the running back bowl for real. I think Nick Chubb is going to have a day. I think Kareem Hunt is going to be extremely involved. And on the other side of things, I think Eckler is going to do his thing as well. Amari, not that he's been hit and miss as of late, but it's just someone that I'm having trouble buying into with Brissett right now and that offense. It's just not consistent enough for me. If you look at his numbers, 6 targets week 1 against a bad football team, you say, whatever, week 1, right? Then you go to the Jets in Pittsburgh, 10 targets, 11 targets, and then last week against Atlanta, 4 targets, 1 reception. This has a lot of different things going into it. One, they're a running first football team, and I think that's why against the Chargers this upcoming week at home, they're going to utilize the ground game as much as they can. And I think Amari Cooper is going to be that afterthought. I could see him finishing somewhere with like 3 receptions on 6 targets for how many yards. And part of my decision making on this as well is I don't really have Robert Woods and Amari Cooper on any teams in certain leagues, but I do like both of their positions specifically for week 5. And I would indeed play Robert Woods over Amari Cooper this week. If you did have that option, most likely it's going to be like your wide receiver 3 on your team or possibly a flex. I like Robert Woods' upside a lot more this week. So Amari Cooper is my bust.
Yeah, and to add on to your Robert Woods start, or boom, I should say, Kyle Phillips is an odd darling of mine that I really like this season. He had a few weeks here. I'll pull him up on the screen. Took a few weeks off. Just wasn't excited. Just wasn't fully healthy is what I'm coming around to. But he's back. You saw week 1, he had 9 targets, and then he got hurt, took a week off, came back, and probably wasn't fully healthy against Indianapolis. But I think he's fully healthy, ready to go now. And with no Treylon Burks, I think it's going to be the Robert Woods and Kyle Phillips show. And Kyle Phillips is very much someone that is probably going to be on waiver like pickups for next week, just because he'll have 8 to 10 targets again this week, and who knows what he does with those, but I think he's a guy, he's probably a solid flex if you're like super desperate. Or honestly, probably a really good DFS play this week. So Kyle Phillips is a guy to add on to your Robert Woods. And
Traylon
then,
Burks is still out, right?
yeah, he's like on the verge of hitting IR. I
Oh
think
wow. Okay.
I think they're just not. I think they're hesitant. Um, so
Yeah.
I haven't seen recent reports, but I know there was initial early reports that he might land on the IR.
Right.
All right. So I'll take over here. My boom of the week is good old everybody's love child. He is currently the wide receiver 10 in
Sir
PPR
Christian
leagues.
Cuck.
Christian Kirk. Love this man, and I think he's going to continue to have huge weeks. I would add, my boom would have also been Zay Jones, but I think he's still questionable, so I'm sticking it safe and going with the guy that you've seen stuff come from. But I think Jacksonville's in line for a huge week. Houston is not a great pass defense, and I think what we're going to see from this offense, what we have seen these first 4 weeks, which is Trevor Lawrence just being able to find his guys open. I don't think there's anybody in this Houston defense that's going to really slow down or stop these guys. I don't think it's going to be like Jacksonville wins by 50 points, but I think we're going to see several drives where Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Jamal Agnew, not Marvin Jones for some reason, but where any of those three guys or these top two receivers in this offense are going to get each like 10 targets, and it's going to be beautiful and very fantasy friendly. And I think we can scratch off this past week with Christian Kirk, where he had 9 targets and 2 receptions. I think we can chalk that up to a heavy rain day. We live in the area, and it was just not a day for football. And I don't see why anybody would have been able to catch anything that day. So 2 catches on 9 targets. I would ignore that and just focus on the 9 targets. And I think we're going to see that consistently from Kirk moving forward. So start him. He's going to, with confidence, he is your number one or even wide receiver 2 on your team. He's going to be beautiful moving forward. This next guy, however, and this was Mike Starling at the start of the season, but I think even he can agree that it's not looking pretty. He had 11 targets last week, which was best on the season for him, and only put up 12 fantasy points. And they're facing a much tougher defense this year. I think the stat for the 49ers, I think it's their average. They're allowing 123 passing yards per game, and for a team that is already really struggling to throw the ball, I'm betting all the unders on the Carolina offense. Is basically what that comes down to. I think Baker is not Baker's not good, and Sam Darnold's not good either, and that's why Baker is still starting. And it's not. This is not going to be a good offense this week. Christian Kirk is probably still going to be just fine, but DJ Moore is a guy I don't want to touch my lineups, but I know there are some leagues where it's just like I can't not sit him. Maybe this is a spite flex where you're like putting him in your flex, but you're like, I'm putting you there because I can't bench you, but you belong on the bench. But I can't see any positive outcome for DJ Moore this coming week. I think San Francisco is just going to be too tough of a defense.
Yeah, I love both the plays there. I mean, Christian Kirk too, like literally the guy would have been phenomenal last week on those 9 targets, but the weather was also absolutely awful, downpouring for most of the game and stuff like that. So I wouldn't put too much stock into that week. I mean, it's a fluke week, if anything. I mean, if some owners are down on them because of last week, I mean, buy low, go out there and grab them. But yeah, love the play for week 5 and DJ Moore. As a DJ Moore owner myself, most likely is not going to see my starting lineup this week. I mean, we all kind of had this narrative coming into the season that, oh, Baker will be all right. It can't get worse than Sam Darnold. And we were shut up really quick on that one. Like, Baker is making Christian McCaffrey look bad. So, I mean, it's a mix of Baker and Matt Rule as well. I don't think Matt Rule will have a job past this season. I don't even
I
think
don't think he. I think he shouldn't last past this upcoming week, but I know he
I
will.
agree.
But I
Yeah,
don't think he should last long.
I agree. I was going to say, I don't even think he should make it past this season. He should definitely be fired mid-season. So, yeah, there might be some changes there, but, I mean, you're not going to mess around against San Francisco, who is basically, like Kyle said, shut down opposing teams so far as of late. So, not going to be a play for me this week. He is kind of that flex guy still if you do have him on some of your rosters, but I'm sure you can go out, and I'm sure you have a guy like Robert Woods on your bench that you could play this week, or just some other receivers at this point with higher upside. Until a coaching change happens or a quarterback change, I'm not really too excited about DJ Moore right now.
Yeah, that was what I was about to say. If Darnold for whatever reason comes in, I do think Baker is the overall better quarterback, but in terms of fantasy value and what he can provide for other players on that team, I think Darnold
Yeah.
has the upside there. So even if you don't feel comfortable starting DJ, he's not someone unless you can get, uh, you know, a little below or equal value in a trade. He's someone I would just have on my bench until something changes in that offense.
Yeah. Yep. Fully agree.
All right, and then for me, my boom is going to be Damian Pierce, the guy I picked up, thank God, in my league. But he's they're obviously using him as a elite offensive opportunity outside of Brandon Cooks. He had 6 targets for 6 receptions in his last contest. Now, obviously, I mean, I'm not watching Texans games. I'll just go out and say that, but it looked like it was just checkdowns. But those receptions are points. Those are 6 points right there. So you gotta love that. He had 20 touches combined in both of his last 2 games. And even without that 70-yard run, he would have 10 plus points. So, as someone that if you drafted him, you probably drafted him in the later rounds, to get that upside from him in these at least these past 2 weeks. Um, he's projected to have 12 points this upcoming week. I feel like he's gonna easily pass that, especially if he's being used in the passing game. And the Jags also just gave up a lot of points. Now, granted, it was the Eagles; they have the best offensive line, and it's Miles Sanders who apparently is fighting the end zone. But I do feel confident that Damian Pierce going forward, he is the lead back there. We had some trepidation because Rex Burkhead was kind of siphoning a lot of the targets, but the team and the coach knew going forward that Damian Pierce was the guy outside of Brandon Cooks that needed to be getting the ball. So I feel confident with that. And then for my bust, I am going Gabe Davis. I know we were just talking about him being a trade target, but as someone that has him, I want to get rid of him right now.
Give him to me. I'll take him.
Let me move the chat. 98 and 96% snap share. Now that's awesome, right? As anyone that has a wide receiver, who wouldn't want that? What I don't like is 6 targets in week 3 with 3 receptions, and then 3 targets with 1 reception against Baltimore, which is supposed to be a team, Baltimore. They're supposed to be a team that is giving up everything to wide receivers. And it's not, and we can, talk about the ankle issue, but he's on the field, man. And it's not like and he's running more routes than Stephon Diggs in both contexts in the past 2 weeks. And Singletary and Knox had more targets in the last game. So I just you drafted him in the 4th or 5th round, so he's someone that I wouldn't feel comfortable dropping yet, and you really shouldn't even think about that. But just because of the snap share, you're not going to get that level of opportunity anywhere else at that value. But he's someone I'm benching this week. I'm putting Ramondre. I have Damian Pierce and Ramondre. I'm putting both of them over Gabe Davis. And my wide receivers, I have Christian Kirk and other guys, but I just feel comfortable starting those two over Gabe Davis until he has that boom week. He reminds me, you know what he reminds me of? He's like a Diet Coke, like Mike Williams. You know? He's gonna boom when he booms. He's gonna boom, but like until then, it's just not gonna work. He's someone that you're just if you start him, you risk getting that production. What was it, 2 points? Like that's disgusting from a wide receiver too. So I don't know. I'm not dropping him, and I'm not even thinking about trading him yet. But if he has like 2 more weeks like this, he's going against Pittsburgh, and Kansas City is really like like you got to step up like against Kansas City because that was the game that you kind of went off in the playoffs, right? Wasn't that
Oh
the
yeah,
game you went
that
crazy for?
was it.
So Kansas City is kind of like that, like the last straw for me if he doesn't produce at the level we're expecting him to. I mean, shit, man. Give me like 10, 13 points, you know? I'm not even asking for a lot, but yeah, Gabe Davis is someone I'm just kind of iffy on going forward.
Oh,
Yeah,
give me Gabe Davis. I want him. I want any and all pieces of this offense. I think it was a down week. I think he got hurt. Or Miami's tricky because like every receiver in for Buffalo was cramping up, but Baltimore, that one's a down week for him. But this is why I'm buying low. I want every piece of Gabe Davis. I think he's in an offense. He's the clear cut wide receiver 2 on this team when healthy, and I think he's going to be playing full this upcoming week, and he's going to ball out. I think Pittsburgh allows the most points to wide receivers, or top 3 at least, and for that, I want this offense in Pittsburgh. So Dante, if we're in a league where you have Gabe Davis and I don't, let's talk because I'll take him. I'll take him off your hands with ease. Although I don't think that league happened. I don't think that league exists.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'd give it to him for free at this point. But
Yeah, listen, Dante. I think that's we've come up with a lot of nicknames over the years for guys. That's a good one, man. The Diet Coke Mike Williams. He just seems like Gabe is. I can't see the way this offense operated for the first 4 weeks. Like I can't see him ever eclipsing like a 10 target game. He's just not that guy, and they don't use him like that. He's more so the guy that like kind of like you see is going to see 4 targets, and maybe some games he catches 4 of them, maybe some games he catches 3, but it's going to be for like 70 to 100 yards and maybe a touchdown or two. So like I think he very well could be the definition of like a boom bust every week at this point. And obviously as well as we've seen with the Bills, they've really struggled the past 2 weeks to kind of been consistent on offense. So we'll see. Pittsburgh, they're going to have Kenny Pickett starting. You never know what that game's going to look like in terms of game flow and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that KC game is when we'll all kind of just like see Gabe Davis in full action again. I think he'll explode that week. But yeah, I could see how he could be a fringe play this week. It's not necessarily someone I would want to like trade low on or get rid of right away, but more so the guy that I'm like, damn, like at this point, I'm probably considering other flex plays over him. If he's going to keep putting up 6 points, 2 points, because like I said, I don't see his target share going up any higher than it already is. So, I mean, it kind of comes down to how well Josh Allen's playing and how well that offense is clicking. And probably this week, if you're going to sit him, it definitely would be one to consider, I'd say.
Speaking of Bills, Steelers, where do you guys have like the Pickens combo kind of going forward? Like, where do you have them? I mean, this is kind of like the worst case for Pickett. Like this week going against the Bills, like I'm not really expecting too much out of them, but I think going forward, like if you have either or both, that's something to look into. At least have your eye on going forward.
Well, listen, that's a great question because as I'm sitting here thinking about it, the amount of targets that Pickens and also Freiermuth saw from Kenny Pickett when he came in the game last week was absurd. If Pickens sees 8 targets again this week coming up, he is a must start from here on out for the rest of the year, I think. If he's seeing those kind of targets, it's ridiculous. And like this is a guy like Dante saying, like he thinks Gabe is going to be the boom this week or a bust this week. And that very I'm jumbling here, could happen. But if Pickens is seeing 8 targets and he sees maybe 7 or 8 in this next game against Buffalo, which very well could happen, I would even consider playing Pickens over Gabe Davis from here on out. Just with that target share, and you know that the Steelers are going to be down in a lot of games as to compare like to the Bills. It's just, I mean, Pickens is one of those guys, so I'm glad you brought that up. It's one of those guys that if he stays around that target share again, that's a guy I'm looking at for the rest of the year for sure.
Yeah, Pickens. If Pickens is consistently Pickett's top target or even second in this offense, Pickens is going to be a fantastic play moving forward. I think he is, even right now, easily the wide receiver 2 in this offense. I think Claypool is not great anymore, which stinks to say. I kind of had high hopes for him, but no, Pickens is just too freakish of an athlete to not kind of take control of this offense. We could very well be talking in a few weeks, and it's like very clearly Pickens is the wide receiver 1 in this offense, and that wouldn't surprise me. So I really like Pickens moving forward, and I think he'd be a very interesting start over Gabe Davis. That is something I would also be considering.
Yeah, I would also say before we close it off here, George Pickens. I mean, we just did a trade target list. Maybe that's one of the guys that you could buy like extremely, extremely low on. Like maybe you're talking like sending him an RB3 to the owner for George Pickens, like an RB3, maybe a wide receiver that just came off a great week that really you don't think is that great. Like Pickens is one of those guys that all he needs is the targets. The skill is there. The athleticism is there. Like obviously he's doing everything right. Just a matter of, is Kenny going to throw him the ball? Was last week a fluke week? So yeah, that could be another buy low kind of guy right there. So glad you brought that up, Dante.
Beautiful. Yeah, so I'm with you. Buy Pickens, or if he's on the wire, scoop him up. But I don't think he is anymore. Buy him now before it's too late. And man, he's going to have a fantastic career.
Who do you think has more upside, Pickens or Romeo Doubs going forward?
Oh, see,
Doubs, just because I think that team wants to pass or should be passing more and better. So just give me Doubs just for that reason.
I agree. Literally as simple as that. Rodgers versus Kenny Pickett.
Yeah,
that's it for me.
Yep. But interesting. That's an interesting one because Pickens, I mean, give me Pickens the athlete all day, any day. But when you're talking situation, at least for this season, and we haven't seen much of Pickett to really say that he's the worst quarterback, and I think he is, but it's just because it's Rodgers. But situation-wise, Dobbs is more in line to get more and better targets. So
Drake London or Drake London or Chris Olave? Let's do the rookie wide receiver game.
Give me Olave.
That's a close one.
Olave's getting the targets already and is in an offense that knows how to move the ball in comparison to Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta,
at least through the air.
The fact that the head coach went on live TV to explain to people that, this isn't fantasy football, I got to win. And he's got to win, but doesn't feed his best player on the field. I don't want nothing to do with that guy, you know. I mean, London's doing his thing. I think London's going to be at his absolute floor, a wide receiver 3 when it's all said and done. He's absolutely balling, which would put him in the top 36. I think that's easy for him. But for Chris, I mean, with the Saints right now, the biggest thing I noticed with this team, and especially Jameis Winston, is he does not dump the ball down. Jameis Winston does not have a safety blanket. He doesn't have a back out of the backfield to dump the ball down to. he doesn't really like throwing to a tight end underneath. This guy loves to air the ball out, and he will force the ball downfield. So for that reason alone, that's why I'd be on Chris over London. But yeah, I don't know. Talent-wise, skill-wise, that's a much closer conversation to talk about. But yeah, position-wise, fantasy-wise, right now, probably I'm going with Chris.
That's all I got. So
no, Chris is just Chris is playing. Olave is playing incredibly, and it's hard to ignore. And Mike said it. It's an offense, or Atlanta is an offense that almost doesn't want to feed their best players, but also just doesn't want to throw. So give me Jameis launching it downfield. Any one of those connects to Olave, you've got the better receiver already.
Love it.
But beautiful. Fellas, to wrap it there, as usual, it's a pleasure talking to you. But before we wrap up, Michael, do you have a lock of the week?
See, now this is a tough one. You know what? And I know everybody's going to be mad at me, but I do not have a lock of the week this week. It's been a little bit tricky as of late to kind of go through these games and kind of pick one that I absolutely love. But I will say to everybody watching, I will have a lock of the week coming up on Twitter this week that I will post when this video drops, which most likely is going to be tomorrow. So, yeah, keep an eye out. I'll have the lock of the week. I'll attach it to the video to make sure that we keep the good luck going here.
Oh, yeah. We'll have that lock somewhere, anywhere, and don't you worry, guys. Mike's got you covered. But before we go, again, shout out to Underdog. 100 deposit match if you use our code. First seed, don't forget it. Hop in there, draft a weekly team. You can draft any given week. You can draft for week 5 coming up. You can get a full lineup of just Bills players if you really want. Or you can get a full lineup of Jacksonville Jaguars. You can pick your team based on the week. It's basically a weekly draft. And I love it. We love it just because it gives you an opportunity to focus on players that you think will actually perform well and not the guys that you drafted and are kind of stuck with. So give it a shot. Use code FIRSTSEED. You deposit up to $100. You get a full deposit match. And that's with our code. Give it a shot. Enjoy it. Have fun. It's fantastic. Win some money. Follow us on socials at First Seed Fantasy on Instagram, at First Seed Sports on Twitter. And then we've got our own socials if you're watching on YouTube down right below us. And they'll be in the descriptions if you're watching or listening. So, fellas, have a great week. Hopefully we all win unless I'm facing either of you. But I don't think I am unless Dante and I are strangely matching up in Dynasty.
I think I'm facing Mike in Dynasty, actually.
Oh.
So I got to put my worst players up.
Hey, my 1-3 team's coming.
We're taking. Hey, I'm the same way. I'm the same here, man. We're taking.
Two tankers face each other, fighting for that first overall pick.
Yes, sir.
All right,
yes,
fellas. Great chatting with you, and everybody watching, tuning in. Thank you, and hope you win your week.